Hey, everyone out there. Linda Bean, Outreach Coordinator for the Kellyanne Dolan Memorial Fund. So nice to be with you today. 11.2 million children in the United States are living with a specialized healthcare need, and 1 in 5 families is caring for a special needs child. We have the wonderful opportunity today, when we look at parents and the struggles that they face in finding the resources and the needs for their child with a specialized healthcare issue. It can be quite a challenge. And I like to say, as a mom, we're expected to juggle and do it all. And sometimes being able to find the right supports and access to those resources can be challenging. So I want to welcome a mom to the studio today, Molly Watson. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Linda, how are you?
How you doing? So nice to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
I feel like that's great. We're expected to wear so many hats, right? Expected to be able to do it all. And I like to say it's quite amazing that my 2 children made it to adulthood and are doing quite well successfully. So I would love to hear, to talk a little bit by opening the show. I know you've got a large blended family now, but to talk a little bit about your journey with your daughter, Maggie.
Happy to. So we have 5 kids. I have 2 stepsons and 3 of my own. And Maggie is my middle child and my only daughter. She is 22 years old. However, since the day she was born, she has struggled with often unknown and complex medical and developmental issues. It took us about 3 years to get an initial diagnosis going all over the United States, which turned out to be a secondary diagnosis, and then a full 12 years to understand that she has a rare chromosome deletion syndrome, which means she is missing a piece of her first chromosome in the 36th locator. And the reason it took 12 years for that diagnosis is because the genetics just hadn't caught up. So we did a random cheek swab when she was 12, and it came back that was the primary explanation for her multiple issues. Just in a nutshell, Maggie cannot walk or talk or sit up. She has been tube fed since she's 6 months old. I would say cognitively, maybe she's around 12 weeks. She is considered legally blind. She is, hearing impaired, although she can hear, and she has multiple systemic health issues, meaning neurological, cardiac, orthopedic, those types of things. So we never had anything even close to this show up in any of our genealogy. So she was definitely the largest surprise to our family potentially ever. But as you can see, she has strawberry blonde hair and beautiful blue eyes and little freckles that look like nutmeg to me that sprinkle her face.
Oh, such an adorable smile too, kind of radiates there. I love that you refer to her as your most influential professor. Tell me, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's interesting. I had a father who used to always say, "Oh, that's just a lesson from the school of hard knocks," which is when something doesn't go your way. And I have come to really appreciate that. And when I think about all the amazing lessons I've learned thus far in my life, Maggie has taught me those through her simple and graceful existence. And there are lessons that transcend both my personal life and my professional life. So she gets the credit as the professor who made the biggest difference for me as I attended the University of Hard Knocks.
Love that. Love that. So when you were a new mom and, as you said, during your pregnancy, nothing showed, you didn't expect that you were going to have anything but a healthy baby with, 10 toes and 10 fingers. And she would go through, life just like any other child. When you were faced with, the unimaginable, where did you start? Where did you turn?
Well, when she was born, I had her brother Jake was 17 months old, and we've lived in Philadelphia for, 25 years, but we have no family anywhere near us without a significant plane ride. And I would say that, the first year of her life, we were really, in and out of children's hospitals in the region and in some cases in the country. And so we were really relying on the doctors that were there trying to help us understand if she was either, gonna, quite honestly, make it. And I learned from them. They would come in every day and we'd all be around her little bed, all, 10 pounds of her. It took her forever to gain any weight. And I would say, well, what's going to happen? Is she going to be a normal kid? Is she going to do this or that? And they would say, Mrs. Watson, let's just focus on where we are today. And so for today, we're hoping that her oxygen levels stay, in an acceptable range and that we get some tests back or whatever the plan for the day was. And I learned from them, and I still practice this every day, that if you think too far into the future, especially about something that scares you, nothing good can come of it. It's sort of like, it's like saying, don't Google. And I actually learned to not Google because I just didn't have the fortitude. So I am a person in general, and like many moms, I want to control it and I want to fix it and I want to go forward. And I learned to say, okay, I'm going to stay right here in the next 24 hours and then we'll go from there. But the next thing that was really critical to me was Maggie's neurologist recommended me to a support group for parents of kids with undiagnosed neurological disorders. So I'm sure in the work that you do, you can find a group for kids with cancer or with Down syndrome, right, or, people with MS. But kids like Maggie, there are tons of them. And so I went to that first support group when she was somewhere between 8 months and a year. And that was life-changing to me, really, to feel the broken, crazy camaraderie of other parents who were struggling with the same fears as me.
I love it. The ask and offer. I think, as moms, there's kind of this expectation that you referenced that, you're a fixer, and this was outside of the realm of your control. You also didn't know with this rare chromosomal genetic issue what was going to be coming down the pike. This was uncharted territory. And to be able to open yourself up to others, I can imagine that support must have been pretty powerful.
It absolutely was. I will say that those first couple meetings, I was in denial because there were parents there who had children much older than Maggie who were clearly, limited. And when I first went to the support group, I didn't know. I walked out of there going like, wow, that's not me. And, over time it was, but, it became less about that and more about somebody saying, hey, make sure you can get, the benefits you deserve for your child. And when I came back to the group and I said, they're telling me she doesn't qualify for Medicaid. And is it Medicaid? I was getting confused. Yes. And this group of moms was like, nope, you go back, you tell them this, this, and this. And so, I just also learned to begin to ask for help before I tried to figure it all out on my own. And again, I do that every, you know, throughout my life now when challenges come. It could be as simple as like we're having a crisis with one of my other kids, and I don't have my Christmas tree up, and I asked my best friend, would she come over and just do that for me? And she's like, absolutely. And in the same way, somebody called and said, there's a mom in Pittsburgh who has a child who sounds like Maggie. Would you spend some time with her? And I said, absolutely. And so there's the balance of asking, but also knowing that when you offer help to others, that there is healing in that process.
Yeah, that journey of taking the first step and learning to ask and really the advocacy that's come out of that. I think what you were describing is really the Medicaid waiver process, because parents don't know where to turn, financially, emotionally, physically, for the support that they need.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that,
it's incredible, and it's still not easy. So you sort of have to find your tribe of people, or your posse, those
mhm.
people. And I've learned also to not be afraid to ask professionals to be part of that group. So, I'm fortunate that Maggie had a primary care physician from when she was about 2, who's really been my partner in all this decision making.
Mhm.
And I'll call her sometimes and ask on behalf of other people what she thinks. So you really need to not be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Or even if you don't know what you're asking and somebody says you should talk to so and so, go ahead and do it. And that works whether you are a mom like me or you are looking for a job, right? So I told my 24-year-old son when he was looking for a job during the pandemic, I'm like, if somebody tells you they want you to talk to their dad's friend who works in a grocery store, then you say yes, because you never know what comes out of a meeting, from
Hey,
someone who's willing to talk to you.
Hey, it's all about, as we know, that networking and the
Yeah.
contacts and the relationships that you can build. Cherish the small stuff. Let's talk a little bit about Maggie and the special and shared memories and times that you have.
Oh, she is such a sweet pea, and she is very um she's quiet but very even tempered. But I will tell you that, it took her over a year to even smile. So you can see that little picture of her in the red sweater was when she was in preschool at the age of 3, and everybody was so excited, that they got her to smile. I connect with her by holding her. To this day, I will haul all 85 pounds of her up into my lap and just hold her so that I can touch her. And so while we all know a great hug is good at any time, for Maggie, that simple ability for us to sit quietly with her in my lap is important. And we live our life balancing not sweating the small stuff, like the fact that I don't have a Christmas tree up, with
Mhm.
cherishing the small stuff, which could be when I walk in and see Maggie. She now lives in an amazing residential care facility, and I call her name down the hall, and she will stop, and then she turns her head sort of to my voice, and then she has this little crooked smile that she makes. And that's what's important to me. That
Well,
tiny little gesture.
and that tiny gesture is larger than life because it's about connection
Yeah.
and it's how you connect with her. Your daughter that you've described as being about 12 weeks in terms of developmental abilities and can't see. And she hears you trotting down the hall coming in with your voice, which is just, so, so incredible. If by chance there's a family out there listening, or a lot of times they'll find these clips on YouTube afterwards,
Mhm.
on your darkest, because it was a path for you and it was not a linear path, and there were a lot of losses for you. Where did you draw? your strength?
I will say from my son, again, he was only 17 months old when she was born, and, you know, he gave me the reason to get out of bed on the bad days. Um, and, I tried to make sure I had moments with him that sort of helped me understand that I was still a good mom, even though, I gave birth to a baby that, by all accounts was broken, to make it simple. And then I learned again to find other people like me through my support group, or when you have a child like this, or a child that's struggling with any kind of chronic disease, you're surrounded by a ton of experts. And, again, I asked the occupational therapist that was coming into my home 3 days a week to try and get Maggie to hold her head up if she knew any other moms. And she facilitated an introduction to a very, very dear friend of mine who's been an amazing friend of mine for years. I am not, Linda, a spiritual person, but I get a lot of energy. I guess my spirituality comes in, being outside, whether it's a walk down the street with my dog, or a hike in Valley Forge. And, I've learned to do other things that replenish me quietly, on the days when I've been drained. So
There it
it's
is,
it yeah.
practicing the gratitude daily, where you find, the elements that ground you, replenish you, and give you really the physical and emotional energy to get up the next day and do it over again, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you hear it's almost overused, gratitude journals and all of that. But 22 years ago, I was a big journaler and I couldn't write about Maggie. And then I decided to just write down something every day that was good about the day. And sometimes it would be, Jake said a new word, or, you know, I was thankful that Maggie kept down 4 ounces of formula, right? Or sometimes those journal entries were like, thank God it's time to go to sleep. So, it doesn't have to be this deep meditative thinking. It's back to thinking about the small stuff that's good, that makes a day simple. Our family, we sit around the table at dinner when we're all together, and happen to be all boys, and we all hold hands, and everybody has to say what they're thankful for. Again, we don't say grace, but it's been fun to see this tradition, continue. And then, whenever they have friends over, where they're all holding hands and they're like, it's in my turn. And we're like, yeah, go ahead. So, we just
Y-
try to find something good about the day.
Yeah, you're keeping it positive. In our family, we do the highs and lows
Oh, that's
because that's the
great.
reality of life, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to do that.
So
That's a good thing.
it ends up being about balance,
Yeah.
where you see, the future in front of you. And happiness is a choice.
It
I love
is.
that one.
It really is. And that's really, there was a moment, I don't know, when Maggie was 6 months old and my son was at his babysitter and I was home on extended maternity leave. And, I put her down for a nap. She was a very, very quiet baby. She never, ever cried, ever. And the only way you knew she was hungry is if, like, she wiggled a little bit. I mean, it was pretty eerie, if I'm being honest. And I lay down in bed in my bedroom one day with the shades down, and the phone rang, and it was my wonderful elderly neighbor across the street, B. And she said, "What are you doing over there, girly? Are you clocking the trains?" Because we live near a train track. And she said, "You get that baby and get out of bed and come over here and have some tea with me." And I could have said no, but I got up and I went over and spent the day with her and just, you know, listened. So happiness is about, a lot of times, just putting one foot in front of the other.
Mhm.
It's not these extreme highs, right? It's
Right.
the peace you find inside.
The sliver of that happiness and hope moving forward. And I think out of this whole conversation, one of the things that's really sticking out for me is you just got to find your people, your
Yeah,
community. And it's okay to ask for help because you are not going to be able to care for your child if you are not being, fed emotionally and physically and able to kind of rejuvenate. So I think that's incredible that you really started. I know it's not active right now, but one of the biggest takeaways, right? I think that if there's somebody out there that your story is really resonating with them, that you would create an option for them to reach out to you.
absolutely.
So, how would, if there's a mom or someone out there, how would they get a hold of you?
My business website, which has been scrolling across the bottom, is evolutionengineadvisors.com. But there is a contact me page, and you also can sort of look at the I think the speaking opportunities where you learn a little bit more about, my story and Maggie and that. So feel free to go to my website and send me an email, and I would be more than happy to have a chat and share any of my experiences and just see any way that I can help. We are all paying it backwards and forwards in this
Mhm.
journey as parents. So
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we should mention in your spare time that you're CEO and founder of Evolution Engine, a marketing company. Molly, I really want to thank you for sharing your story and your journey and just some of those um, lessons or tips, however we want to phrase it, for maybe a new mom out there that doesn't even know where to start for support and resources for their child. So thank you so much. Wishing you and your family, Christmas tree or not, it doesn't matter. It's about togetherness. Have a beautiful Christmas, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. You as well. I really love the work you and the Kellyanne Dolan Foundation do for families. So
Thanks,
thank
Molly.
you.
Have a good one.